Yeah, I tell you, I did. I chuckled a few times here, and one of them was when some officer said, "Well, get a dog," and you know, I have a sign in the window of my home, and it says, "We don't dial 911," and it has the head of a Rottweiler. I own a Rottweiler, and then it has a semi-automatic handgun. And I didn't put that up to be funny. That was a message to anybody thinking about breaking into my home. I don't dial 911. All right. I will afterwards to say, come get this dead guy out of my house. He's bleeding out and he's messing up my carpet. All right. And that's not the sound, you know, it's just, that's the reality. I'm not going to fool around with that. So, but that's the mindset I have, but I've been a cop for 35 years. All right. So I have that, I live with that every day, and it becomes second nature. I don't have to think about it. And I want law-abiding citizens, because I trust them to make those decisions as to what to do. And if they want to blow the whistle, fine. I don't tell them not to, but I don't think that's going to be very effective in some of these situations. So I want people to think about what's going to be effective. But they got to be ready up here. I took you through what led me to do it. I didn't mention Newtown. This had nothing to do with Newtown. Okay, the violence that's gone on in this area, and by the way, violent crime is up nearly 10% in the city of Milwaukee in 2012. Okay, 10% increase. I think aggravated assaults are up nearly 33%. So that's what I'm responding to, not Newtown. That's what I find unconscionable. I really do. That the anti-gun movement in this country, and they lay dormant, and they've been dormant for a long time because there is no public support for the kind of nonsense that they're suggesting, and they know it. So they lay dormant. And when a situation arises, they exploit that. They exploit it. The misery and the tragedy of the people of Newtown, Connecticut, the Sandy Hook School. They exploited their tragedy for political gain. They have no soul to do something like that. I happen to support freedom. And I think the Second Amendment is about freedom. All right? It isn't about hunting. It isn't really about personal defense. There's some parallels, but it's about freedom. It's about law-abiding people being free to make decisions in their lives. That's what the Founding Fathers wanted. That's why they created that Bill of Rights. Freedom from government intrusion. This movement right now is about trying to squeeze that Second Amendment because they are exploiting this Sandy Hook and Newtown, Connecticut tragedy for political gain, and they see an opportunity here. And so they're trying to squeeze something out of this. This universal background check. That sounds good, right? Who wouldn't be for that? That had nothing to do with Aurora, Colorado. It had nothing to do with the suspect in the Sandy Hook. It had nothing to do with a background check. As a matter of fact, the guy in Aurora, Colorado, he passed a background check. The guy who, Wade Michael Phillips, I think his name is, who did the Temple shooting, the Sikh Temple shooting here in Milwaukee, right? Tragedy, right? He passed a background check. So this doesn't have anything to do with background checks. What this is they're trying to find some nugget that they can take out of this and claim victory. But I say the same thing about me when Piers Morgan, I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking in an interview? I'm sitting in that chair thinking, you have no idea what's going on the ground here. What are you talking about? All right, so that's why I'm sensitive about saying what a law enforcement executive should do. But I did say this, and I meant it. If some of these chiefs, Chief Flynn here, these mayors against gun, spend as much energy and as much time attacking criminals, career criminals who perpetrate violence by using a handgun, we'd have a lot safer country than we would going after law-abiding citizens. Okay, so, unfortunately, this thing turned, very political, the Sandy Hook, the elementary school, the Newtown, and God bless those folks out there for what they've had to endure. And they got dragged into this political fight. That's why I said I find it unconscionable that you would take people going through misery and suffering and drag them into the middle of a political arena and say, we're going to use you as the symbol for why we need political leverage in this argument. I find nothing more distasteful. With the City of Milwaukee Police Department, and again, through no fault of the officers, they're deluged with calls for service and they don't have the resources. It takes on average 52 minutes to respond to a burglary. Okay? It takes nearly 20 minutes to respond to an armed robbery, just under 20 minutes. So we're not talking 2-3 minutes like I heard in this tape here. 59 minutes on average to respond to a sexual assault. Can you imagine being a woman who was just raped and you call police and you have to wait on average nearly an hour for someone to get there? I mean, the first thing that a woman wants to do after a horrific experience like that is clean herself off, but then she's washing away evidence. Okay, but that's the psychology of it. So she doesn't want to wait around, for police. So then evidence is being lost. But this, think of her mindset. Where are they? Hey, this horrible thing's happened to me. And again, no fault to the street cop. But this is what Tom Barrett has done to the citizens, the residents, the law-abiding residents in the city of Milwaukee. Said, you're on your own here. On average, it takes an hour and 2 minutes to respond to a call like the sound of shots. So when you hear those response times, and that's just a few of them, when you hear those response times, what are people to do? And I heard that asked, well, what are we to do? Hide in the closet, run for your life, scream, all that, blow a whistle. I'm not going to tell people not to do that, but that's their choice. But here's another choice they have, and another option they have, and it's to fight back. And that's kind of what my ad said. You can run and hide, you can beg for mercy from a violent criminal, or you can fight back. But if you're going to fight back, you have to be mentally prepared for that. All right? Those situations are tough. Cops, they live that all the time. They live in a state of hypervigilance. All right? The average person does not. It is very difficult for a human being to point a gun at another human being, I don't care who it is, and pull the trigger. That's a very hard thing to do. And a lot of people can't bring themselves to that. So that's what I'm trying to tell people in my ad. Start preparing yourself mentally for this. I didn't say go out and get a gun. That's not even the half of it. Because if you can't do what you need to do to defend yourself or your family, not only in your home, but on the street in that situation, if you're not prepared up here, you're just going to freeze. All right? And so I went out and told the truth. I said, hey, 911 is overwhelmed. It is. All right? The purpose of 911 when it was created, and I did a study on that. I'm sorry. I did some research on the history of 911. It was meant to be a centralized place for people to call. Because, if you got 15,000 police agencies throughout the United States, you got 15,000 numbers. And if I'm in Illinois and I'm not from there, how do I know the Chicago Police Department number? That was the purpose. And it got out of control. And now people are using 911 for things other than life or death situations. So the system's inundated. So I'm trying to prepare the people in my county, okay, mentally, to say, hey, start thinking about this stuff now. I can leverage you as an additional resource that you can do some things in that 18, 52, 56-minute time window to protect yourself, you and your loved ones, all right? I have an obligation to do that. I'm not going to hide stuff from the public because it's unflattering, all right? Personal defense is an individual responsibility. Government has to learn how to let go of power and allow law-abiding people who I trust to make these decisions. I trust them to make those decisions. And I get this all the time. Well, Sheriff, what would I do in this situation? And I'd say, well, I don't have all those answers. Here's some options. And that was my ad. Okay, here's some options. You have to plan. You have to figure this out. Start thinking about it today. And it has to be second nature. Okay, just because you go out and you get a permit to go armed with a concealed weapon on the street, you don't have to have the permit in your house. And I'm going to get to two things that happened in Wisconsin after this. Doesn't mean you're going to be ready. All right, you took your little course, you know, you fired and you took your firearm safety. That's one time. That's not how you become proficient at anything. All right, and I think people know that. It's repetition. And it doesn't mean every day, but cops do this every day, and so it becomes second nature. You have to do it a little more frequently than that, so that when this situation comes, you don't freeze, you don't panic, because you will. But the key is to recover quickly and get back into the game up here. That's the game I'm talking about. I need you in the game, not freaking out and, oh, what do I? Okay, calm down, get in the game. So, you know, when I heard Joe Biden say what he said about firing 2 shotgun blasts out the window, again, government telling people what to do. Oftentimes, people will ask me that question about some situation, and I'll say, you know what, I really don't know. That's your choice, that's your decision, but here's some things to think about. I wouldn't tell them fire a shotgun blast out the window. First of all, on a porch. First of all, if you're in a residential neighborhood, that might be effective for killing a street light, but that's about it. In a residential area, you might have apartment buildings, high-rise apartment buildings. If I'm walking down the street in that neighborhood and somebody sticks a shotgun out the window and fires 2 blasts, I'm going to think they're shooting at me. And if I'm armed, I'm going to return fire. So you see how they're making a bad situation worse. All right, so here's the advice I gave in that situation. Someone's breaking into your home. All right? First of all, use concealment to your advantage. Use cover. Find some cover. I don't tell people hide under the bed and go in that's not cover. If you have a firearm in the home and you feel you need to defend yourself and your family, use concealment to your advantage. All right? The next thing you need to think about is to know who and what your target is. Okay? Because you want to make sure. I mean, we've all heard these situations where it was a mistake, it was, so know who and what your target is. The next thing you need to think about is aiming center mass. Don't aim out the window. Center mass, that's in here, and then pull the trigger. That would be my advice. I wouldn't sit up there like the vice president, with all due respect, he's the vice president, and tell him, well, just do this. I say, here's what I would do. Use cover, because you don't know if that clown trying to break into your house is armed. All right? Know who and what your target is. Point that barrel center mass and pull the trigger. All right? Then after that, well, you know, there's a lot of things that are going to be going on. And see, the thing is that 911 in that situation is not going to help you. And that's what I said, it's not your best option. The mayor and others tried to contort some other thing, my message, into something that it didn't say. It's just that at that point in time, and I heard throughout the video I just watched, well, it's going to take us some time to get there. Okay, yeah, we understand that. The average law-abiding citizen understands that. But it's like, what do I do in the interim? Well, I don't know, scream, put the phone up against your... I mean, that stuff's crazy.